Support for Character Crusade comes from audiobooks.com. Audiobooks make it possible to enjoy a story, learn something new, or find inspiration anytime, anywhere. And with more than 60,000 titles available, audiobooks.com makes it easy and convenient. Simply set up your account and start downloading your favorite books to your mobile device. Right now, you can start with a free 30-day trial and select the book of your choice to get started. Go to book.charactercrusade.com and start listening today.
You're listening to Character Crusade.
Greetings, Crusaders. You're listening to Character Crusade Skyrim Roleplay Workshop. I'm Stu.
And I'm Joe.
And I'm Matt.
And tonight we're going to talk about the three rings of character conflict. That's going to be our play theory segment tonight. And that topic is really designed to help people find ways to look at their characters in a new way, maybe come up with a level of detail that they wouldn't have considered previously. It's just one other way that you can go about doing that. So we're going to discuss that in detail in today's play theory segment. And then tonight in our character craft segment, we're going to focus on your character, right, Joe?
Yeah, my new one. Blah, blah.
And blah, blah?
Yeah,
How do you spell that?
Well, let's see.
Ienarath.
Okay.
Okay.
Ienarath.
Excellent.
Well, he can spell it.
Nice.
So-
Ienarath.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to go for the simpler names. Although some would say that Shulat Sheshkala is not exactly a simple.
No,
But
not
it does
exactly.
roll off.
It's pronounceable though.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Joe-
wouldn't be something that you could like fit on a license plate, which makes it difficult.
Yeah. Well, that's why I just call him Shulat. It's easier.
Just reminds me of
It's easier.
Duloc.
No.
Duloc is the perfect place, by the way.
It is.
I've heard
It
that.
is.
Yes. It kind of reminds me of Solitude, actually.
In its very own special rectangular way, yes.
Yes.
I think somebody's compensating for something.
Exactly.
Says the naked donut.
I know. So we're going to focus on
No compensation.
Joe's character, Inoth.
That'll work.
That'll work.
Like David Lee Roth.
Exactly.
Not at all.
No?
No.
Not at all.
No.
Oh, I kind of like that.
I messed up.
She shouts a lot and does big circle kicks. We can't figure it out. But she looks great in chaps.
Big 80s hair. 1480s hair.
1480s hair, yes. So we're changing up our format a little bit for the character craft segment because Would you say we went long in the last episode?
It was a bit long.
A bit long, yeah. Well, we're going to change it up a little bit. We're going to cover all three characters, but we're going to focus on two characters for 10 minutes, and then we're going to have a longer focus on one and just kind of alternate with every episode. So tonight, we're going to focus on Joe's character, and then we'll get a 10-minute update on my character and Matt's character, and then that'll lead us into play theory. But before we do that, we have some announcements.
So it's wwtwo, major level up. We've got another 5-star rating on iTunes. I don't know how else to say other than thank you. Thank you very much.
Say it just like that.
Oh, thank you.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
Oh, yeah. Let's not.
All right, how about just thank you, www2?
That's better.
I like it.
I think lots of folks share the sentiment on the idea that the interplay, our conversation's really interesting. Makes it much different than other podcasts where it's just a person talking. But also lots of people have noted that there's been some significant improvements in the technology production of the podcast.
Right.
And we've said that happily. We've said that on our own. We even have more new gear here today, partly because we clearly don't need to eat anything other than ramen because we need to buy more electronica. What do you do?
I know.
Better podcast, thinner me. Okay. Ramen's not going to help with that. 5-star rating's fantastic. Thank you very much. For everyone who gives us a 5-star rating, got to listen up for a shout-out to you on maybe the next coming podcast if you give us 5 stars on iTunes.
Yeah, we're always going to do shout-outs for 5-star ratings on iTunes, and we're going to do shout-outs for contributors to our Patreon campaign at any level above $1. Right?
Absolutely.
So we do have some updates in our Patreon campaign reward system, right, Matt?
We certainly do.
What do we got going now?
So we're changing some of the giving levels. A lot of the folks have looked at like the $15 director level and probably thought, I'd really like to do that, but what about the $10 level? And I've got some character things I'd like to talk with you about. So we're talking about doing a change to the $10 a month level.
Okay.
To really invite a little bit more interaction too, right? So we'll do character critique. Get us some of your character ideas, and we're going to banter amongst the three of us and come up with some good character backstory, help understand a little bit about where your character maybe is coming from,
right.
and get that back to you at the $10 a month level.
This is awesome. I like it. We have a lot of people who've sent us their character concepts through the web form.
Yep.
But we can't always respond to those, and then when we do respond to them, it's in the context of our Crusader mail segment where we may be trying to address 3 or 4 questions at a time. This would be a significant portion of an episode that was devoted to an individual specific character, and we could go into a lot more depth, right?
Right.
That's great. I love that. Okay, so what about the $15 level?
Well, the $15 level stays at the director level, which for folks who are interested in that, it is helping us to direct a show. What's the content going to be? Where are we going to go? What are the things that we're going to cover during the course of that show?
Okay.
Makes me a little uneasy. Gets the control out of our hands. But the reality is that this is not just for us, right? This is for the, huge numbers of people who are listening. And to be able to get some direct listener feedback as to what they want to hear in that upcoming podcast would be, I think, kind of fun.
Yeah, I think I think we have the most fun when we sort of pick a topic and just kind of see where it goes, right? And so getting some direct feedback from our listeners to say, here's something you may not have touched on before that I'm particularly interested in, but the rest of the world might benefit from. Right. I think that's a good thing too. So this is great.
Only $15 level.
All right.
Let's bring it on.
We're doing $1, $5, $10, and $15, but you certainly don't have to stick with those numbers if you don't want to. That is simply how our reward program is structured currently. If you've got any suggestions for other things you think might make good rewards, certainly feel free to send us an email and let us know your ideas. We're always looking at all that stuff.
And we're always reading all of the feedback that comes through that form.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So in further announcements, we have Joe has got a little bit of an update for us on upcoming episode, right?
Yes, and good segue to email.
We don't have an email sound, do we?
Not yet.
Not yet. We're working on it.
Yeah. That is it right there.
Okay.
Okay.
I think we can do better.
I don't know how to bray that. Okay.
So, no, coming up, we do have some listener mail, just the one today, but
Okay.
I want to throw out a couple of important upcoming dates, and we can go in a little more detail on that at the time.
Okay.
But it is going to revolve around the Aranis Arcana questions
Okay.
that we've been getting through the forums.
Okay. Are we hitting critical mass or what? What's the deal?
Well, we've got enough of them that I think we can
Okay.
spend a significant amount of time
Right.
in an episode discussing people's curiosities.
And
Okay.
let's be fair. People are going to start breaking down the gates if they don't get some answers.
All right.
So I'm going to throw those. I'll throw those dates out when listener mail comes around. But
Okay. So we're going to get a cutoff date when last
yes,
questions are
there's going to
due.
be a cutoff date, and then we'll announce when.
Okay.
When
Which episode?
the episode is that we'll address those.
Okay, cool. The last thing that we have on our list for today for announcements is some updates to the blog. I put up a blog post last week. It is, incidentally, the topic that we're going to be covering tonight, the circles of character conflict. But there are a couple other items up there. Joe has started posting entries of a short story, right? Which is kind of the background of your current character, right?
Yeah. I've kind of been grooving on my current dark elf,
Okay.
my Dunmer, and so I've decided to put together a backstory in the form of a short story.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to start putting those up on the blog. I've
It's
got
really
the one
cool.
there, and as soon as I get those caught up to my actual gameplay, then I'll start basically documenting the game.
Okay, it's kind of like live journaling. I think is really cool.
Yeah.
And there's so much in here. I'm hugely envious of the fact that you've crafted such a great story behind this. I'm jumping in and I'm playing and I'm screwing things up, and then I think after the fact, wow, how could I account for that in the story? I just love reading it. I'm not going to break the news to anybody. Just get out here and read it because it's great.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's on the blog, and we'll be we're dropping it into a category. I forget what it is. Is it short story or what
Short
is it?
stories or stories. I can't remember off
Okay.
the top of my head which one I.
Yeah.
Short
It'll be one
stories.
is it short stories? Okay.
And I think it's also tagged with the character's name too. So
Yes, it
there's
is.
more than one way to get at that content. But right now it's just going to be in the stream of our blog, fairly standard. We don't have so many entries in there that it's going to be difficult to find.
Yeah. At
Not
some
for a
point we
while,
might,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Soon it will be.
Organize. them.
Yeah. So the other item is I am going to slowly start releasing content from the Aranis Arcana Let's Play into the blog in both written and audio format. This is something I've been wanting to do for a while, but I finally kind of figured out what the right platform is for it. So the first blog entry I put up, and I don't know how often I'll do these, maybe a couple a month if I can do that, but I've got the script from Fleet's first encounter with Sithis up there, along with a completely remastered audio file for that. So you can read it, you can listen to it, you can do both, and then put up a fresh screenshot from the Let's Play that I did some extra work to in Photoshop to really make it look nice. And it's kind of a way of just sort of showcasing some of the content that came out of there. I figure if it's up there and people can check it out, maybe they'll be able to use it for some ideas of their own, for their own characters. So there are going to be several entries from Sithis up there, some probably dialogue content from the series, as well as some poetry and things like that were written as part of that whole experience.
Very cool.
Yeah. So the blog is growing and people are starting to hit it. So it's kind of exciting.
Great.
Yeah. Very good. Anything else, fellas?
No, I'm busy reading your blog post.
Oh,
Stop interrupting.
sorry about that.
No, I think that should wrap it up.
All right. Let's get into character craft. Stick around. All right, Matt, so tell us what's up with Einar Stigandr.
Well, Einar Stigandr has figured out how to shed all of the stuff that he was carrying from the last episode. I have a huge pile of stuff here in Bleak Falls Barrow that I have dropped
Not all his
Not
stuff.
not all of his stuff. We've already gone through
Okay.
that.
All
Stop
right.
asking me to drop my stuff.
All right.
No, but there's got to be 15 outfits and weapons and boots and all kinds of things here, and he's kept the most important weapons.
Somehow Einar Stigandr referring to them as outfits makes so much sense to me.
Well, there's so many things that you can choose to put on.
Right.
Are they like animals? Can you mix and match them, or
They are. They're just covered with the blood of his enemies, as opposed to fun shapes and characters.
So how far did you make it all the way through the barrel then?
I did make it all the way through the barrel. It was lots of death going on in there on my part. Lots of other people had unfortunately passed along the way too, as I learned better weapons. I started taking some screenshots. So here's Bleak Falls Sanctum. I started getting through because I really like the environment as well. Come around the corner and what did you call this dude?
oh, that's a Draugr.
A Draugr. So I learned several times not to just run around the corner expecting that I was going to,
Yeah,
survive. Because as soon as I pay attention to one, depending on which weapon I have in my hand, if I have a bow and arrow, invariably I'll die.
Right.
It's like my other first-person shooter games where I tend to use bazookas and stuff like that. I have to have something that's a close-in weapon. Otherwise, it's just dangerous for everybody, including me.
There are some occasions when a bazooka would be awfully nice.
Well,
everybody might be one of those.
Yeah.
Everybody was telling me about how the Giants were turning into golfers, and I found that out too because just being clubbed with that.
Yeah.
Did you go airborne?
Oh, many times.
Nice.
Oh, you got into it with the Giants,
I did.
too.
Well, I had some questions about being able to go get a mammoth
I've
tusk,
had
right?
questions.
Oh, yeah.
I have so many questions. I think that if the physics were any more real, I would feel it because my flailing, broken, crushed body flying through space after the Giants took one big swing.
Actually, I think on the console you can set your controller to vibrate.
Oh, yeah.
So you could feel it.
it would still be vibrating
rumbles.
right now.
It rumbles, yes.
But after I got out of the barrel, I was trying, again, I'm trying to follow some of the conversation from earlier podcasts, and I'm trying not to fast travel because I'm still trying to investigate all of Skyrim. So as I back out into any of the spaces that I've investigated, if you will, if I look at the map overview, there's a lot more things there, which is great, but I'm really tempted to fast travel just because, it would be convenient.
Oh, yeah.
But then you lose it's like on vacation. It's partly about the journey, too. And you keep telling me that I'll bump into other people learning archery and whatever else. And while most of the people I meet don't survive the encounter.
He's meeting all the wrong people.
Because I don't know better, right? Oh, look, hey, there's a person. They must be evil. They must be slain.
Yeah, you get jumpy like that.
You really do. And so first character, I'm trying to not... There's an egg up there. I didn't even notice that. But... So as I start taking screenshots and figuring out where I am and all the stuff that I missed, I've made the mistakes of shooting some of these flame pots and having them, fall down on me. And,
that's good fun.
That's really lots of fun. Only after the fact do I find out that there was death boiling above,
And usually a lake of oil underneath.
Right, but if there had been bad guys down there, I would have
That's
been
why
all
they're there.
set, right?
Yep.
But I had managed to take care of all the bad guys apparently before I got there and just dumped it on me. Not so smart. I got through activating this ring here with the golden dragon claw.
Oh, yep.
Okay.
Not knowing where I needed to get all the detail about those things, I probably spent half an hour
Oh,
choosing things at random.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Right.
not really a lot of fun. I just kept saying no whammies, no whammies.
Did you finally figure it out? How did you figure it out? Just by messing
Random
around?
dumb luck, right? At least there weren't 5 rings, or it would still be going on. Because 3 rings, 3 choices. I just kept guessing my way through it. So I would just try methodically. If you've ever misplaced your...
Do we want to help him?
No, don't. Tell me in a minute. I went through the fix your bike lock mode, and that is pick one, advance it, advance it.
Yeah. Damn it! I locked my laptop to my desk, and I really need to go home, and I can't remember the combo.
What the heck is the code? There's only 999 possible options. All right, so break it to me. How easy was it to figure that out?
Well, if you don't know, not easy, but if you look in your inventory, and you go over and you select the claw item, you can zoom in on it and rotate it, and on the bottom of the claw is a symbol that corresponds to each ring.
Interesting.
Yep.
So
Okay.
you look at, and all the claws are different. So you look at those, and then you just go top down.
Okay. Well, now I know for next time.
You bet.
I would not have
I
thought
am amazed
to
that
review
you
the
figured that
inventory.
out, though. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
That's
the
one of
fact
the
that you got
reasons
it
why
just
it took so
randomly
long.
is-
I
Well,
know.
it isn't random. It's methodical, horrible, tedious. But I knew that there had to be something important on the other side of the wall, right?
Oh, yeah.
Something important.
Yeah.
Good enough.
I didn't check my inventory though. Did I lose the claw to
No.
using it, or I kept it?
No,
it stays with you.
It stays
Okay,
with you, yeah.
That's good.
Yep.
Well, that was just after midnight, so clearly between the last one, yeah, I spent a really long time trying to open that up. Yeah. Anyway, so
Live and learn.
from there, I managed to get a couple of, I think, really kind of cool weapons, which was really kind of nice after having run around with an iron steel sword and things like that.
Oh yeah.
There's a couple of bows and arrows that I have been really very good. I've got the ancient Nord bow or something like that.
That's not bad.
It's better damage than everything else. I'm
Yep.
not just running around with the hatchet for splitting wood anymore.
That's good.
So, but just learning some of the places where I can drop all that stuff, because I tend to still be a hoarder. I still pick everything up and then try to go find a place to drop it off. But I have a question in that regard. Can I leave a marker anywhere on the map where I have left stuff? Because I can go out and place markers on the map. I just didn't know if...
Yeah, but you can only place one marker at a time.
Right.
So you could create a cache for yourself or something and put that marker there. But depending on where you leave your stuff, there's no guarantee it's going to be there when you come back,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's
So-
the danger of that. 'Cause
Right.
a lot of those things will respawn, the barrels and the chests.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So if that happens and your stuff happens to be in it,
It's gone.
it's gone.
It's gone. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah, that's the advantage of, a player home or a safe chests mod or, things like that. You have the option of safe storage. One thing you can do, if you're not playing a modded game, is, get a house or get involved with some guild that offers you a safe chest.
Sure.
I know the Mage College gives you a room
Yep.
that you can occupy, and that stuff is all safe.
Okay.
How about your Vasgard?
Your Vascar, I don't believe there's
They
safe
don't have,
chests
because
in
that's just
there,
kind
right.
of random.
Yeah.
You sleep wherever there's a bed open.
Right. I've seen mods out there that add safe chests to your Vascar, so I wouldn't say that anything in the vanilla game there is going to be safe.
Okay.
Okay.
So, but once you get a player
way to go.
home, everything in there is going to be safe no matter what.
I haven't
Right.
needed to go back and pick any of it up yet because you tend to find lots while you're on the way.
Right.
But at least I have clothes on now that the
Good,
game is
good.
going through. I have tons and tons of arrows. Every time I see an arrow, I pick it up. It's like finding pennies on the ground.
Well, yeah, and
Yeah.
arrows don't count against you.
No, there's no,
for
which is
weight.
fantastic, right?
Right.
It's odd, but nice.
Yeah.
But if you look at the way that I'm using my bow and arrow, because it's in complete childish freakout mode when I'm being attacked by anything and I
Yeah.
happen to have the bow and arrow, I'm not thinking about changing weapons
Right.
to something right away. So
You're
I
just
tend to
letting
back
loose.
up and I'm letting loose, and then
Right.
you got the arrows that are not going anywhere.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
And then you
hold
get
it
some
back.
good high power ones. So I go through a lot of arrows, and
Sure.
then I march through and try to pick them back up again.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
I have killed, unfortunately, some people who probably didn't deserve killing. We'll maybe cover that another time. I tried to return the golden claw to Lucan,
Yep.
whatever. And I apparently did something untoward, and he started coming after me. Well, yeah, he didn't last very long. I think I probably tried to steal some of the gold from the counter or something, and
Yeah.
it was just, you know,
Accidental
it's,
click.
Well, it
it's
happens.
accidental
Yeah.
gold stealage. You know, what are you supposed to do?
Right.
But of course, then he attacks me, and then
Oh, yeah.
his wife attacks me, and both of them are now dead. So I'm probably missing some huge part of the game in the future. But
Yeah.
what do you do?
Well,
Well, I don't recall off the top of my head, but if it were really important to have him around, he'd be essential, and you wouldn't be able to kill
I've
him.
still got the keys to his place, though.
So
there
Maybe
you
I could
go.
store all my stuff there.
You could try. You could try.
I think he was primarily essential for the barrow.
Yeah.
That quest. So I mean, you've
Exactly.
completed that. So
Yep.
I don't think there's anything more for him.
Well, and I know that we're right near the end of the segment, but I did get to participate in a dragon slaying That was pretty awesome.
Yeah?
Outside of Whiterun, or?
Where is it?
Yeah, it looks like it's the one outside of Whiterun, the first one that you run into.
Yeah.
Which was
Western Watchtower, right?
Yes, yeah. Vicious and awesome.
Isn't it fun?
It is.
It's pretty cool.
Contagious. It really
Yeah.
is. Then you're like, where's the next one? And then you realize that was a really bad choice. But, you then have to try to figure out how you're going to use your shouts. And not so good so far, but again, only one change of the game on my part, and
Takes
so
time.
far getting slaughtered a lot and learning. So
Yeah, well,
more next time.
That's the adventure. Excellent. This is a great update.
Cool.
All right.
Very good.
So I'm going to talk about a new character, Robbard, and he is part of my Epicosity project. I have posted some things on the website regarding Robbard already, but I hadn't had a chance to talk to him, in this podcast, talk to his focus and kind of the direction I'm trying to take this character. As far as the project goes, I'm really bringing him on board to be sort of my thief character. And I've played a lot of stealthy type characters, and I was really interested in trying to find a new way to go where this is concerned. So with Robbard, I'm really focused with him on not only thievery, but actually more on the idea of him being a bard thief, right? And when I started coming up with a character concept, I really wanted to find a way to play a character. I wanted to play a character who was just a dirtbag, just a jerk, but just not a jerk for the sake of being a jerk. A complicated character with a back history that explains why he is the way that he is. And Robbard is what I came up with. But his name's Robbard Graves. Robbard Graves is not his given name. His real name is Robbard, but his last name, by my telling of it, is Ravencrone, which is the last name of the Jarl in Morthal.
Right.
So, and if you've had any interactions with her, she kind of has a reputation for someone who has visions, as kind of a seer and all this stuff. And one of the things I noticed when I have gone through there is that she kind of talks in riddles a lot. She sort of is more kind of involved in what's going on in these visions she's having than what's going on in the real world. And I also noticed that she's married to a man who's much younger than she is. And I thought, there's an opportunity here. So basically what I did is I've made Robbard the illegitimate son of this Jarl Ravencrone. And kind of the way I've explained that in my head is that, he's the product of either the way I think of it is that he's the product of a first marriage, where the husband dies and then she takes on the mantle of Jarl. And so the idea is that, he's not exactly the greatest character in the world, and they're looking for a reason to sort of get rid of him. And so, growing up, he does a lot of things that are probably not very good and gets a reputation around town to be someone who's unsavory. The one redeeming quality he has is his ability to play the lute and to sing. So, I've been kind of working on this concept for a while, and it was kind of frustrating for me because I put the character together and I kind of put all the mods together that I thought I needed and had a lot of struggles with technical problems. And so I ended up having to change up a lot of things and essentially started the character over from scratch after making it up to level 18 or 19.
Ooh,
so
why so?
Yeah. Huh?
Why so?
Well, I don't know. It has to do with some of the mods I'm running. I'm using Percus Maximus, and to kind of emphasize this idea that he's a bard, I went with this Become a Bard mod, which I absolutely love. And then the other thing that I feel is important as a thief character, obviously, is all the stuff in the thief perk tree. So the dexterity work, some of the speech stuff. Dexterity is where we're getting things like lockpicking and pickpocket and all that stuff, right? So I was having a problem where with Become a Bard, I couldn't ask any innkeepers to play in their taverns.
Right, and you were also having trouble with the mini game too, weren't you?
Yeah, it was the lockpicking mini game. I could click on a locked chest and the mini game wouldn't launch, so I couldn't pick the lock. And I went through a lot of hassles with that, trying to figure out exactly what was going on. In the end, it turned out to be just this crazy thing about how I had loaded an update for Percus Maximus. So once I figured that out, lockpicking was working fine. And then I thought, you know what, I'm going to start the character over and then kind of at level 1 slowly introduce the mods that I think are important for this character to work and see if I can't get everything working right. And that really, that seemed to do it. So I kind of have everything I need now.
Cool.
But I'm starting over from scratch in a way. But really, really like the character. Again, I'm following the same model that I have with past characters, where I have these ideas in my head, these vignettes that kind of clue me in as to who he is, but I haven't fleshed everything out yet. So I'm still kind of working on that, and I think a lot of it has been muddied by the fact that I've had to start this character over twice now.
Right.
So
now, I don't recall if you said already, but did you say what part of your Epicosity this character is going to?
Yeah. Well, I'm focusing him
like a thief.
Yeah, he's going to be a thief. So eventually, he's going to be my thief guildmaster, right? Sure. But what I've discovered is that I love the bard stuff. I mean, he has not even made it to Riften yet. And he's at level 14 at this point.
Oh, nice.
So
okay.
we'll see what happens, right?
You walk in the right direction and you level up. I'm still at level 6 or 7 or something right now.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of crazy, but so yeah, I think there's going to be some more updates to come. I know it's a little bit muddy right now just because I'm trying to work through getting everything working. It was really important to me.
We'll kind of set the stage and get the base set.
Yeah, and I really wanted Skyrim to kind of be a playground for a thief.
Right.
So I had to kind of think about all the things I wanted running, and it turned out to be a much longer list than I was originally planning. So I think I'm up to about 148 mods right now, but I've got everything running smoothly.
Nice.
Finally.
I'm running 0 mods. So 140 mods.
Yeah, well, 148, yes.
Almost 150,
really?
Yeah, but there's some absolutely brilliant ones in this mix. I just can't get over it, and I think I'm going to be reviewing this character a lot more in future episodes, and when I have the background story more solidified, I'll kind of let everybody know, but...
I think at some point, too, we'll probably, at least you and I will probably throw our mod lists out there for these characters.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I'm just writing stuff down every time you mention it, and we get it into the podcast notes and everything. Percus Maximus, Sky UI, and a few others seem like the right place to start, but I've got nothing in there right now. I'm just still running basically vanilla. So
Well, this is a character that I love the concept enough that if I had to start him over a third time to get it right, I would, because it's that important to me. I just love the idea of him, and even playing him at low level has been a riot. So I'm really looking forward to sort of fleshing out this whole thing.
I do believe there's actually some images of him up on the site. Crusade, so.
Oh, yeah. There's some images up there. And
look for the unsavory looking dude with the cigarette.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, the interesting thing was too that I used the race menu mod. So of course I had created my first version of him as I tried to sort out some of these problems and select my mods. And I loved the way that his facial features came together, and I wanted to preserve that. So I was able to use race menu to save out presets of his look.
I was
And
Yeah,
when I
was planning on
started
doing
the
that.
character a second time,
that yet.
I
It's
loaded
nice
those
that he's playing the
presets.
lute like this too.
Yeah, I know. It's perfect, right? That middle finger sticking up in the air. But yeah, I mean, there's some inconsistencies right now in the way that I've crafted his background. I haven't decided, is he going to be this illegitimate son, or is he going to be a legitimate son with some other problems, or what's the deal going to be? But I know that he's going to be a part of that Raven Crone family. And I know that he is going to be kind of an exile from Morthal and estranged from his family. And I've gone to the point of using the console to add a bounty to his head inside Morthal. So if he goes
funny.
back to Morthal, he's going to be in trouble. And I've already had encounters with bounty hunters because of that who've tried
Searching for you.
who tried to take him out. Yeah, so it's been
Interesting.
pretty fun.
Cool.
Yeah. So anyways,
Mod selection, changing your character storyline.
yeah. There's a lot more
Yeah.
coming on this guy, but
Cool.
I got to get my thoughts together.
Very good.
Yeah.
And just as a point of reference, if you're not familiar with the Epicosity project, you can go back to episodes, 3 and 4.
3 and 4.
Yeah. 3 and 4.
And that we talk pretty extensively about it. So
Exactly. Yeah.
very
So
cool.
more to come on Robbard Graves once I get everything nailed down.
Thanks, Stu.
Yeah.
Cool. Looking forward to it.
Okay, Joe, what do you got going?
All right. Well, last time we had talked about where Inoth was left by her
Yeah, it was something of a cliffhanger, wasn't it?
her necromancer group that
Yeah.
was not real excited about her trying to take their stuff and leave. So they
Stick around.
Yes. So alternate starts placed me in a room, and as Stuart has since done a little bit of research on, because I'm too lazy, but they actually do.
You were delegating, I think.
Alternate starts does actually randomly place you for their different options.
Yeah.
So my random selection was down in Blackreach.
Oh, excellent.
So I started out level 1 in Blackreach,
Oh, that's not good.
specifically in Sindirian's
Okay.
laboratory. So it was a safe starting point. But for anyone that has been in Blackreach and has gone to Sindirian's field lab, you'll know that there is a construct perched right on the doorstep.
Well, as well as a bunch of Falmer, and
There's Falmers creeping
it's
around,
dark and it's
and
crazy
it's
down
dark, and Blackreach is not exactly leveled.
there. Mm-hmm.
So the construct was not leveled for a first level character.
Oh my God.
I don't know. I can't remember what it's at, but it's the version, the higher grade version that has the built-in crossbow.
Right.
So I couldn't even run from it
Oh yeah.
because it could get me from a distance.
Yeah.
So I started out there, and so I rifled through Sindirian's stuff. I grabbed his journal, so I kicked off the Crimson Root quest.
That's crazy to do the Crimson Nirnroot quest at level 1.
Yeah. Well,
Wow.
I haven't officially I've collected a couple, but it hasn't been my focus.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you've started.
Yes,
I
it's
mean,
kicked it off.
Most characters don't see that until they're like approaching pretty decent high level.
Yeah, I don't remember on my normal playthroughs the other ones what I was started out as, but
Yeah.
so it was kind of a rough place
Right.
to start, and so I grabbed what I could out of there,
Okay.
and I opened up the door, and this construct activated immediately,
And then you died.
and then I died. And then I went, shit, how am I going to do this? So then I opened the door again, and
And what happened this time?
then I died.
Oh no.
Sensing a pattern.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I died 3 different times on the doorstep
Oh my goodness.
before I was able to actually run away.
You're supposed to say
Okay.
trick or treat.
When, yeah, well, trick was on me, and it
Well,
was no treat.
God, that sucks. I mean, at that level too, you've got hardly any stamina, so you can't sprint for any length of time.
No. So yeah, once I realized that the sword I think it was a Dwemer sword that I grabbed from within his laboratory, that I was not going to be able to kill it with that.
Okay.
That's when I reverted to running away,
Mm-hmm.
which is shortly after. Okay, so if you're familiar with the layout, kind of straight across from it is kind of a stairway that comes up to there's a doorway where you would normally actually come into it, I believe.
Yeah.
So I went up there, and that's when I discovered it had a ranged weapon.
Oh, yes.
So
right.
then I died.
That built-in crossbow thing that it has.
Yes.
Of course.
So I died at a distance a couple times up there.
So that was your come to Akatosh moment.
Yeah, pretty much.
What am I going to do?
Yeah, so I was able to retreat into the doorway that was up on that stairway and kind of gather my thoughts a little bit.
Was there kind of a safe spot in there, or?
Yeah, because I could close the doors behind me, and it was all rubble. So
okay,
I don't know if that's just how the door is, because I don't remember. It's been a long time since I've been in Blackreach,
right?
Or if the mod alternate start actually rubbled it off, so you couldn't go backwards through
the it's probably, my guess is that probably comes from the mod.
So I went in there. So there was nothing in there but me. And dark as hell. Good God. Thanks to enhanced lighting effects that I've got installed.
Oh, man.
It's really, really dark.
So what did you do? Just kind of feel your way around? Or?
Well, fortunately, there's enough glowing mushrooms and stuff around. I could make my way up okay.
Okay.
So I was able to get in there, figure out what I was going to do. I tried, because there's a automated crossbow up on that.
Oh, yeah.
That walkway, and it's pointed directly at that thing. But it's got to be in operation. It's got to be erect, not just the sphere.
Okay.
Otherwise,
it has to be standing up.
Yeah, because when you go to pull the lever, the thing goes right over the top of it.
Okay.
So, and I just was not quick enough to pull that lever before it got up, rolled around, and shot things at me. So I gave up on that. Now, this time I jumped off the wall to the left. So that kind of brought me into a kind of a protected area where some pipes came down, and so I was kind of out of line of sight. So we were good with that, but I was right by this pit where Falmer is.
Oh no!
So that activated the Falmer. He came out to see what was going on.
Right.
And let's see.
Were you able to get them to fight each other?
Oh, you know what happened though? Yeah, because he came, and the way he came around, the sphere put its attention towards the Falmer.
Okay.
Took the Falmer out, and then took me out.
Oh, okay.
So then I tried it again.
Square one.
Save.
So I tried it again, and kind of a long story short, I was able to get the construct to take the Falmer out.
Okay.
In a way that gave me some room to jump down into that pit and up the ramp. And then I just circled my way around to the left, and I was fortunate I went the direction I did, because that's the way the lift was.
There's a lift right there, yeah.
Yeah.
And you were able to get out then through that lift.
So I was able to open up the lift, get on the lift, and make it to the surface.
Now, are you then able to use that lift from now on to get back down there?
Yes.
Can you do that? Okay.
Exactly.
Go to Blackreach, they said.
You'll be fine,
they said.
I love that.
So yes. So once you get up the lift, there's the lever that you can open up the gates, and they'll stay open. So
you can go back down there anytime you want.
So I can go back down there anytime.
Oh, that's kind of cool, though.
And so that's inevitably that's where I left off. So I have kind of come full circle in that. But in the meantime, I went up and I started going towards Dawnstar.
Okay.
Well, actually, back up just a touch, because that particular lift, that's the Aftland lift.
Okay.
And that is just right overlooking, what inn is that? The Nightgate Inn.
Okay, sure.
So that's the first thing I hit.
Oh, that's actually a pretty good spot.
So I came down and I went into the Nightgate Inn.
Okay.
Because I thought it would be a good chance to recoup.
Okay.
So
makes sense.
We spent a night at the Nightgate Inn.
All right.
And I talked a little bit out there about some orc living in the basement, blah, blah, blah. Went through the dialogue and all that good stuff. And then that's the next day I headed out towards Dawnstar, Morthal, eventually up to Solitude.
Okay. So when you came out, how did you play that off? I mean, did you play it as though she kind of knew where she was headed, or what were your thoughts there?
You know, at that particular time, I played it off that she probably would not have known until she got to the Night Gate.
Okay. Then she could ask around and figure out.
Yeah, she could ask around, and she knows enough of the general world. And the Night Gate is actually probably a pretty well-known stopping point.
I would think so.
So at that point, she started to kind of piece together where she was. And the fact that she was actually quite a distance from where her group was. And it's not a coven necessarily. I don't think a group of necromancers really has a name, do they?
I don't know. A murder?
I'd go with that. Appropriate.
I'd go with that.
Let's do that. So we've got the Coven of Witches and the Murder of Necros.
Okay.
So that's when I realized that she was far away, because the area that I chose for her murder to be was down in Felglow.
Okay.
So that's
opposite direction.
Yeah, closer to Whiterun. So
okay.
She doesn't have any desire to go down south.
Okay.
Right at the moment. So I've been spending all my time with her up north.
Okay.
So I went to Dawnstar, ran into a little shithead of a kid.
Okay. Oh, is that the?
Yeah.
That's the kid from Interesting NPCs. He's added.
It's gotta be.
He's added by Interesting NPCs.
Yeah. So this is a kid who's his goal is he's going to open up his own museum. And he's just the snarkiest little brat you'd ever know. But towards the end of the conversation, I got to kind of like him.
Oh yeah,
because he was ambitious and he didn't take crap from anyone. So anyway, his whole idea is, I'm going to start up this. I don't even remember what name he was going to call it. Dusk something or another.
I've never gotten far enough down the dialogue with him to find this stuff out, because he always pisses me off in the first 2 seconds.
Too, and so I was ready
to boot him, or what?
I was ready to stick my foot
in
water
away. Just ignore him. But
I actually pursued quite a bit of the dialogue with him. So it turns out he's going to open up this museum for some ridiculous thing. So I offered to fund it because I was kind of interested to see exactly what in the heck.
Wow, like a Skyrim Kickstarter.
What this kid had going on. I'm like, all right, I'll pitch in. So he said, no way, because then you just want to take a cut of all the profits.
Oh.
So he said no.
He is kind of a snarky little
bugger.
a
little bit.
So did you give it the $5 a month level? Or?
He went to the director level all the way to the top.
I was going to, and he just wouldn't accept it. So good luck with your museum.
He's a control freak.
But what keyed me in on his dialogue, because if you remember on some of my background, was some of my reading in my Murder of Necros, is that he came across these books, and one of them was of Mehrunes, and part of that was the Mythic Dawn.
Yeah.
So that's kind of one of her goals, is to get that going.
Right.
Well, this little kid in his museum talked about, and I'm not going to name it with something stupid like myth in the name.
Oh.
So I'm like,
okay.
What's that about?
Yeah.
So I started looking around, Morthal a little bit, or Dawnstar, excuse me.
Yep.
Yeah, Dawnstar. Started looking around Dawnstar a little bit, and there is the Mythic Dawn Museum that does open up in Dawnstar. However, I haven't kicked that quest off yet, so it was locked.
Right. Yeah, once you hit a certain level,
you get a letter.
The letter will come.
Yeah. So right now, he stayed around Dawnstar for a day, or she did for a day or two, and spent some time there. I usually spend my nights in a town somewhere.
Right.
One, I don't have the camping gear to spend it outdoors, and she'd prefer to spend it in a bed than a tent.
Yeah.
So there was really nothing left for me at Dawnstar. Dawnstar, she lost interest in real fast once she found out the museum was not open.
But we all know she's going to come back.
She will be coming back.
The time will come when she'll get that letter, and then...
Correct. So
she'll know where to go.
So then she started pursuing her way up towards Solitude, ran into Morthal and spent some time there. Even less of anything interest for her in Morthal at the moment. she might be intrigued by one of the little side quests there with the vamp.
Yep. Yep.
But for the time being, that was even less interesting to her than Dawnstar. So she left there pretty quick after spending the night and then made it up to Solitude.
Very good.
So she went into Solitude, and quite honestly, I spent a crap load of time just mucking about in Solitude.
Yeah, I've discovered that as well.
I've just
a lot of time in Solitude.
Yeah, just kind of role-playing stuff, going up to Blue Palace.
Oh, the irony.
I know, right?
Going up to the Blue Palace, and I have
no idea where any of these places are, by the way. It's like listening to a travelogue of all these places that I might one day reach.
You will
Someday.
reach them. You will reach them. So part of I've got 2 mods installed, which really allowed me to spend a lot of time in Solitude, just role playing.
Right.
I've actually listening to the Elder Lore to get some of the lore from
Elder Lore podcast,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because some of the lore is really interesting. So I've kind of played her off as spending this time, maybe catching up on some of the books. She's been keeping all the books she finds, and someday she'll be able to store them away and read through them. And she's kind of a academic in that sense.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, Solitude is essentially the capital.
Yes.
And it's the capital of Skyrim.
Yep.
And, there's a lot of resources there between the Blue Palace and the Bard's College and lots of shops and things like that.
Yeah. So
So
the 2 mods I'd mentioned that really allowed me to spend time there are primarily honed metal,
okay.
which allows you to have a blacksmith either make or upgrade pieces for you, so you don't have to forge your own armor and weapons if you don't want.
It's about the most sensible mod ever. It makes sense, right?
So, but there's a caveat with that because it always takes time.
Yeah.
So you have to wait at least one game or 1 day, game day, before. So I mean, I would spend the time with her. She'd put on her dress that she bought at
Radiant Raiment.
Radiant Raiment. She went and bought some nicer clothes. And so she'd put that on, give her armor over and say, make it better. And she'd go out and read books and explore Solitude a little bit.
Wow.
Talk around to different people, including
cool.
Jari.
Oh.
Yeah.
Jari Ra.
Yeah. I think we might have to talk about him another time. But
yeah, I know. He's an ass. He requires a little time set aside.
A little bit. So, so I spent a lot of time just kicking around Solitude, getting to know people, and going up to the Blue Palace, visiting and buying some spells from the wizard there.
Yeah, okay.
I can't remember her name now.
Yeah, I really can't either.
Palace wizard.
Dear listener, you go ahead and yell at your iPod or whatever you need to do right now. Yell at your iPhone because you know what the name of this character is. It's like I don't know. It starts with a B. It's crazy because
Louder. Yell louder.
I don't talk to her very much, but I rob her house all the time.
She's got a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, you'd think I'd know her by now, but no.
Yeah, no.
So you are hearing hundreds of people shouting the name at their iPhones.
It's like
right
Brylan or something like that.
Oh,
Brylan or
yeah. Maybe.
Yeah.
Something
like
there's
that.
one of those.
Yeah. She's kind of an arrogant person.
Yeah, a little bit.
I'm going to see selfies pouring in of the insides of people's mouth while they're shouting at the phone.
Well, that's similar to some of the airness.
Yeah.
YouTube. It's there. It's right there.
I know.
Turn around.
Did you know that you just walked right past 10 black soul gems? No, I didn't see that 5 episodes ago. Thanks for letting me know. I got a few of those.
So I spent a lot of my time in Solitude, so I'm getting to know Solitude quite a bit just by walking around waiting for my stuff to be finished. I've had him he made a silver katana for me and improved some of the Corundum armor that I had found.
That's really cool.
So Yeah, it costs a boatload of money. Don't get me wrong. It's not an easy way to, if you're looking to save coin, make your own stuff. But
Right.
this particular character, I don't feel she would be heavy into smithing.
Right.
She would be willing to pay someone to make her stuff.
Well, it makes perfect sense.
She'd rather focus. So, I mean, right now, I don't see myself spending any perk points in smithing, which is just outrageous compared to how I usually end up, legendary.
Right.
At
Yeah,
least
but if she
once
wants
or
to
twice.
learn everything, which seems to be the story so far, she wants to learn everything from everybody.
So
you
her
know.
focus right now is, things like conjuration and
Yeah.
alchemy.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, time saved messing around at the forge is going to be
Right.
poured into other research, whether it's
Exactly.
Right.
alchemy or enchanting or
Speech.
any,
Because you
stuff
can have
like
them
that.
doing all their work while you're off at the alchemy lab,
Right,
right?
right. So, I mean, it
Yep.
means that I have to go find and earn and build up my income, my septum
Yeah.
pool, because I've got spells I'll need to buy,
Yep.
as well as equipment.
Yeah.
Neat.
But it's seems fitting for the character.
Yeah, for sure. I like that. That's very cool. So you can just as easily, use things like alchemy and enchanting as kind of a leveling engine instead of smithing,
Right.
which tends to
Yes.
be the case for a lot of people.
Yep.
But this gives you the opportunity to do that and still have armor that's going to, protect you and
Right,
fight,
because I
so-
do want her to be a heavy armored sword and board
Okay.
melee fighter.
Right.
That's able to surround herself with lots of Nazi's, skeletons, zombies.
Okay.
All this
Nice.
really wholesome.
Oh yeah,
things.
absolutely.
Well, you grow up with necromancers. You surround yourself with the like.
When in
yeah,
Rome.
exactly.
And to make the whole world like your childhood, right?
Well, then we can finally have peace.
They were
Well, that's awesome. I think the direction sounds great.
So, as I mentioned earlier, now that I've kind of been in Solitude, I've gotten what I want, and the other mod is actually isn't as indicative for me staying in Skyrim. So we'll cover that another time. But
Okay.
she has now left Solitude. She went to help Jari out a little bit.
Okay.
And then now she has decided, after running into Fort Snowhawk and being attacked by the necromancers that inhabit that
Oh
place,
yeah.
I took some time to deal with that.
Okay.
That was quite a bit of a challenge, actually.
What level were you when you hit that, do you think?
Oh, let's see. What am I at now? I'm about 17 now, so that must have been around 15.
Okay.
So, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, that's-
doable, but
That's a challenge
But
at any
challenge.
level it can be.
just because there's so many of them, they're so spread out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so I was able to clear that out, and
Mm-hmm.
I abandoned the idea of using that as kind of my place of residence, just because it's too open, it's too well known.
Yeah. Well, and it's right on a major roadway and all this. It's kind of a weird
So
spot.
what she's felt the best thing to do now that she's got a little better supplies and armor and experience, is to return to Blackreach and claim the field lab house as her
Right.
primary
Well,
place of stay.
I think that's awesome. And now she's going to be coming back, close to level 20, which is going to make it her much more formidable
Right.
going back down there. So
Yeah,
Very
so
cool.
that's kind of where she's at. So she's going
Yeah.
to come full circle on the Blackreach.
I love that. I think you've made the best of what was initially kind of a bad and scary situation.
Oh, it was horrible.
no kidding.
But it's
Run.
think about it, right? I mean,
Run,
it's just
Forrest, run.
it's actually a great spot for a character like her to start. It's like it's one of these deals where if you really are truly trying to make a character that is going to be this evil overlord someday, right? Where better to have them start than in a place like Blackreach, and to say that I've emerged on the
Right.
surface,
Yep.
having survived Blackreach, not only that, but mastered it. That makes her even scarier in my view.
Yeah,
so,
she's
very cool.
I think I'm going to spend some time now in Blackreach. I'll probably get my ass kicked more than once,
Oh, sure.
but we're gonna try to make a go of it. And right now, I think she's at a level where it's going to be difficult, but it's possible.
It's doable, though.
So
yeah, it's doable. And you'll level fast down there, too, with all the stuff going on.
Yeah, I think so. And the field lab is a good place because it's got the enchanting and the alchemy. And I might try to do a little bit of tweaking to it myself through Creation Kit so I can make it into kind of a personalized home for myself. So
Sounds wonderful. I love it.
All in.
Yep. Well, we'll look forward to hearing the next update. See how things go back down there in Blackreach.
Yeah, maybe
with
we'll
your
talk about
customizations.
Jari a little bit.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have a Jari episode because Robbard had his own encounter with Jari Ra.
Perfect.
So
we can
we'll
piggyback on that.
We'll have a special episode on killing Jari Ra. All right.
Thanks, Joe.
Next segment, we are going to get into play theory. We're going to be talking about the circles of character conflict. Stick around. In today's play theory, we are talking about the circles of character conflict. And there is a blog post on this, as we mentioned earlier in the podcast last week. It is called Circles of Character Conflict, and it contains a diagram that kind of lays out how this works. We're going to talk about it today because I think it's a really good device to use to help define how your character would not only react in certain situations with certain people, but it also helps you think about some of these other things we've discussed, like characters' strengths and weaknesses, right?
Right.
And so one of the things that is fundamental to writing good characters, whether you're writing a novel or a screenplay or whatever, is kind of understanding how they react in different situations. The circles of character conflict really help us define that in sort of practical terms, but then we can have a lot of other cool development that spins off of it. So if you were to, if you're not looking at the website now, I'll describe it to you. We're looking at basically 3 concentric circles, like a target, right? And at the center circle is personal conflict. This is the conflict that a character has at this sort of personal, psychological level. And this can be mental conflict, moral conflict. It can even be sort of like physical conflict. If they're dealing with a physical limitation, that qualifies as personal conflict.
Perhaps like a skooma?
Yes. A personal conflict can be an addiction, right? It can be an addiction, or it could be something like it could be something physical, a gimpy leg, or an old war injury, or something like that. Then it could also be something that was sort of heavily rooted in some kind of a psychological problem.
Sure.
A mental illness, things like that.
Sociopath?
That could be one, yes.
Just perhaps.
But really what this
Being
is,
raised by necromancers, perhaps.
It's about who the person is at their core. And if you were to illustrate it in kind of really simple terms, I like to think of it as the thing that the character thinks they want and what they really want, and the divide between those two things. Because a lot of times the biggest lie we tell ourselves is the thing that we think it is that we need, when in fact something else is driving that, right?
Sure.
So this is really the core of the character, and I would say the most important of the 3 rings, but all the rings are related. The next one outside that, the next ring out is sort of this level of interpersonal conflict. So who are the people that they associate with? Who are the people that they know? So family, friends, colleagues, rivals. These are the people that they're coming into conflict with, and this is the clash of personalities. This is conflict outside self, but it's within that group of people who are closely associated with the character. And then the next ring out is more like extrapersonal or societal conflict. So what are the institutions of society or government or culture that they rail against and come into conflict with all the time?
Sure.
And so these things are all sort of interrelated. And we want to try to think about, where does our character fall in the spectrum of each one of these circles, essentially. Right?
Sure.
And so what it helps you do, though, is it helps you dive a little bit deeper and see how these things are related. So when I think about Robbard, for example, that character, as I think of him, is a character who has a lot of deep-seated problems. There's what we see on the surface, and then there's what's below that's causing the symptom that we see on the surface. So when I think about him, he's a violent person, and he's rough around the edges, and he's antisocial, but he's got this ability. He's got this ability to play this instrument like a virtuoso. So, there's this dichotomy, and it's the dichotomy to me that's exciting, right? He's got these terrible things going on. I mean, he's just not a pleasant person, but he has this crazy gift that you'd never expect. And so then you're asking yourself, well, how does a person this gifted end up this messed up? And that starts to tell the story for you. Right. And as I've told it to myself, and I'm working on various variations of this, right? This idea that he's a raven crone who has some kind of a problem in his background. He's illegitimate. So I've been saying he's illegitimate, and I'm on the fence about this still, but he's an illegitimate son of I think her name is Idgrod Ravencrone.
That sounds right.
Right? And the way I imagine his background, at this point, he's probably in his late 20s or early 30s, and Ravencrone is a fairly old woman at this point in the story.
Probably in her early 50s.
Yeah. She's got 2 kids by her current husband. One is a young boy, and one is an older girl, probably in her late teens.
Yep.
And so the way I sort of envision this is, Robbard is an illegitimate child. That sets him up immediately as the bastard to get picked on. But
easy scapegoat,
right? And so I kind of painted this picture of a kid who has this ability. He's a little bit of, kind of quiet, and he doesn't really interact with people much, but he likes to play the instrument, and that is his saving grace. And then at some point, he does something that causes people in the community to kind of rail against him, and he loses that one thing he had left that made him sort of feel like he was a part of the community, the ability to play that instrument. So what it really comes down to is, what is it that is at the core of this character? And when I think about him, he's a character who thinks that he wants to be rich. He thinks that he wants to be famous. He thinks that he wants to be respected. Right. But when you boil it all down, what he really wants is to be loved. Right?
Sure.
There's what he really wants, and that what he thinks he wants. And so those things are coming into conflict all the time. And so what we need to do is try to figure out what that source is. Right? And then we can extrapolate from there how that plays into this whole idea of the interpersonal conflict. So as an example, with that being the baseline for Robbard, one of the vignettes I've created for myself is this idea that he's changed his last name to Graves, and that's not an accident. So as he's growing up, there's a woman in Morthal who is a great musician that he admires and that he learns things from. And when she passes away, she is buried with her instrument. And he goes out one night and he digs up her corpse and recovers the loot.
Wow.
And then
UTE.
yes. UTE. He recovers the instrument. And to him, this is an important thing, right? Because she's a great musician. She was his teacher. He admires her. She's buried with this instrument, which he thinks is wrong in the first place. So he digs up the instrument. And then, as you can imagine, what happens, when the townspeople find the 10-year-old kid playing the lute that they know was buried with this woman a week before, right? It automatically makes him a pariah. And the kids, being kids, are cruel to him, and they basically refer to him as grave robber now. Instead of Robbard, he's now grave Robbard, which eventually turns into grave robber. And so the uproar is bad, and all this stuff is happening. And then, of course, Idgrod, she's got this illegitimate kid, finally decides to make herself respectable, and she gets married to a much younger man and starts having more kids. He's the odd man out, right? He's not the biological son of the new husband.
Right.
And so there again, he's a pariah. Now he's a bastard, and he's an outcast. An outcast for multiple reasons. So essentially what I'm saying is that his ability with the instrument is used as an excuse for the family to send him off to Cyrodiil to a music school. But in the meantime, what's happened, of course, is that all the teasing and all of the ridicule and all of this negative stuff has caused him to withdraw inward. Mm-hmm. He doesn't associate with anybody unless he's punching them in the face. Right. And so his way of telling them how he feels about the way that they're treating him is to fight them.
Physically.
Right. Fight them, always fight them. And so I think of him as being, a scrappy person and a very dirty and for keeps style fighter.
Oh, yeah.
Who after, beating one too many kids with a table leg or something like that in town, basically, is thrown in and out of, what is essentially jail there.
Sure.
Until finally they're like, okay, there's this rich guy we know who's a music aficionado who's coming to the Bard College in a week. We're going to get Robbard there and get him a chance to play for this guy and see if something can't be done. And he goes and he plays, and the guy likes him and says, you know what? I think this kid is good enough. I will pay his way to this school. And off he goes to Cyrodiil, and at that point they wash their hands of him.
Sure. Okay.
And so this is the idea is that we're looking for what is that internal conflict that the person has, mental, emotional, and physical, that drives what they do, and then we expand the rings from there. Is that making sense?
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah, I like it. It's
yeah, for sure.
It's an interesting way to look at a complex character. And I think a lot of times what we do is we think about the things that the concepts that we have, but we flail around when it comes to determining how to organize our thoughts.
Right.
And what I've determined is that this model seems to work really well for me in capturing first that inner ring, which is so important.
Right.
But then it's really easy for me to start to interpret now, if I'm looking at the interpersonal conflict ring, the next ring out, who's in that ring? Well, his mother is in that ring, his brother and sister are in that ring, his stepfather who hates him is in that ring.
Right.
His music teacher.
Yep.
His patrons, any patrons that he might have.
Yep.
Right?
Any of the kids that bullied him.
Yes, exactly. And
basically all that direct contact.
Yes, yes. So he's a character who respects bullies, and he considers himself to be one. So he does not give kids who are begging money. He ignores them, and he gives money to the kids who are bullies as a reward for sticking up for themselves and being dominant and being alpha. And so when I created him, I created him as a smaller guy. I dialed down the weight on him a little bit, and I made him wiry and lean and mean and nasty. And that was kind of how I think of him.
Sure.
So, Yeah.
I really like your definition or description of it like a target, though, because the center area with the personal conflict is really going to be the hardest to really fix. And in the same way that if you're practicing your archery, the bullseye in the center is the hardest to hit.
Yep.
You can get it all over the rest of the target and address those things one at a time, willy-nilly, but getting right in there to the center would really solve a lot of the problem.
Work and practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, you know, the trick then is to say, obviously, this character, Robbard, he's got a lot of self-hate, and he tends to sabotage himself all the time. So how does that translate into our interpersonal ring? And so the way that I've imagined this is the way that he acts has caused people in his life to want to get away from him. So sending him off to Cyrodiil to go to music school was a way that they were able to make him someone else's problem.
Right.
But what happens there? Well, there he's basically knows how to do two things. He can play an instrument really well, and he can fight really well.
Right.
And there's an adrenaline rush and a sense of satisfaction associated with both.
Oh, yeah.
And so the way I've envisioned this is obviously something has drawn him back to Skyrim. Well, that something for me is the fact that he's basically sabotaged any opportunity that he had in Cyrodiil. And, you know, the game, as I'm playing it, using the mod Be a Bard, I'm focused primarily on the musical instrument. So there's no singing going on.
Right.
There's nothing like that. And I thought, okay, that's fine. I can just say that as a character, his background was in the musical instrument, and that's what he was focused on. And then I decided, no, what if he was a great singer and a lute player? And what really happened is that at some point along the line, his ability to sing was destroyed from a punch in the throat, you know, or something like that, because he decided that it was time to go down to the tavern and pick a fight with somebody because he had nothing better to do, you know? So that's kind of
unintended consequences.
Yeah, that's kind of how I think of it. Is he's into self-sabotage, and as much as he says he wants to be famous, anytime he's got an opportunity to play for someone who might be able to take him to the next level in his career, he's either screwed it up by being drunk or being late or having broken his hand the night before in a brawl and he couldn't perform. And so at that point, everybody's washed their hands of him now and said, you know what? You had your shot. It's over. And now he's back in Skyrim trying to figure out how he's going to make good. And it's turning out that that route for him is going to be a dark one. So, but it's this idea of self-sabotage. So now we're thinking about who are these rings and how does this propensity he has for fighting and always doing the wrong thing in a social situation affect his life in that ring. Right? Yeah. And so then that brings us to the societal conflict ring. Now he's back in Skyrim. What is he going to do? Well,
besides aggravate everybody?
Besides aggravate everybody, yeah. And, you know, the way I see it, the first thing he does is go back to Morthal, and they're like, oh my God, he's back, and he starts causing trouble. And so what I did is kind of said that's kind of the background information, right? I started him off kind of using alternate start, I started him off in sort of a criminal faction. Okay. So I started the game in Valtheim Towers as a part of the bandits, the bandit group living in Valtheim Towers.
Nice.
And I sort of considered that, you know, him hooking up with a group of bandits just because he needed that group for security initially.
Right.
And
safety in numbers.
Safety in numbers. He gets back to Skyrim, gets his feet back under him, and then he proceeds to steal everything that they have, and he kills the last person between him and freedom and then makes a run for it. So he's out there now, and I made him a pariah in Morthal by basically, like I said earlier, I used the console command
to give him a bounty.
To set him a bounty in Morthal. So anytime he goes back to Morthal, he's going to be confronted by guards. And that's sort of my idea of his mother basically saying, you know what, you're not welcome here. You're banished, right? And so he's got to find another way. And so at that point, now we come into conflict with society. So it's conflict with his mother and those who are in power in Morthal, but then also conflict with society on the whole, because he's now selling skooma, and he's selling drugs basically, and he's taking a deeper dive into the criminal underworld to try to make his way there.
Wow.
Because he feels like it's the only option he has left. So that's the conflict, the larger conflict with society, and as all this waterfall, it just kind of flows down from that internal conflict outward. So we want to try to start in the middle and work our way out.
Right.
Or I guess you could go the reverse too. I find it easier to start at the core and work outward, but
Sure.
You could look at it like a funnel as opposed to a fountain. If you've got all the society pressure coming in, and then that's affecting the people who are closest to you,
inward.
and then everything gets really bad for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
as a reaction to all the stuff that society
Kind of really
doing
what makes the most sense to you.
That's an interesting way to look at it, though, too, because quite often we don't see the flaws in ourselves until we start to see how we're in conflict with the people around us.
How does it manifest itself?
Yeah.
Once it's affected you. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think the things we see going on in the societal and interpersonal conflict rings are symptoms of what's going on in the personal conflict ring. So
So we were talking about it as a target, and on the website it looks very two-dimensional. As you were talking through it, I was thinking about turning it into a 3D,
What if it was a
like
cone?
a fountain. Yeah, like an inverted cone, right? And up at the top, you've got this cylinder of personal conflict that all it's doing is filling and filling with this boiling over, and that water falls down, like you said, down into the interpersonal conflict. You don't really have a lot of control over where it goes. If it's really, really major boil, it's going to go everywhere, and it's going to splash its way down into societal conflict really pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And so what we're talking about here is kind of some major examples of how this personal conflict might affect his life, but we can also probably see some kind of interesting and more subtle ways that this impact could be seen. So
you just basically draw the maps, the little arrows between which layer it's affecting.
Yeah. Well, if we use Robbard as a model, for example, let's just, this hasn't happened in game, and I don't know that it ever will or not, but, imagine that a major character in a Skyrim quest line, a female character, decides that there's something about him that she likes. How does Robbard react to that situation?
Probably poorly.
To the idea that someone might have affection for him.
Yeah.
You can start to imagine different ways that could play out depending on who this person is and their personality as well, obviously. But what does that mean for Robbard, right? So in this sense, maybe he looks at that as, something to run away from because he doesn't want to let it get close.
And what do they want from me?
Right. Or does he go the even worse dirtbag route and totally take advantage of that situation to get what he wants?
Right.
Is
like
that,
you say, it really depends on the situation and the person.
Yeah. And my thought is that in that situation, one thing you could do is you could play him like the Terminator and say that, he basically, destroys this person and moves on without a care. Or you could say that rather than that, he's more complex than that.
Yeah.
And maybe he sees something as well, and maybe has some feelings, but he's gotten so good at self-sabotage that,
without even knowing it,
he acts on the negative and then regrets it later, or, who knows what.
Yeah, there's a lot of options.
A lot of options.
Possibilities.
Yeah.
I mean, he could start out wanting, going through all the gears and figuring out what this person can do for me. How can I take advantage of it? And then as he gets down that path, something changes and he changes direction.
Right.
I think the carry weight on regret is very high.
It could be without
point.
really even knowing it.
Yeah.
So if we have a good handle on what that personal conflict inner ring is like, and what the interpersonal ring is like, then we get some really interesting ideas in these kind of dialogue situations. When we're presented with dialogue with NPCs in Skyrim, we can make some decisions that are based on a real feel that we have for what the character would do. You know, and so what I've tried to do in my character background is define some things about Robbard at each one of these rings, enough so that I can craft a little bit of a background and get a sense for what they would do. And at the interpersonal ring level, I've also tried to make a bulleted list of who some of the actors are, family members who might fit in that ring, associates who might fit in that ring, rivals, things like that, and just kind of pick a few individuals and place them in there and give a little bit of thought to his relationship with them. So
yeah, that's interesting. That's a good way to do. I mean, I like it. I might have to put myself a list together.
Well, I think it's
in some ways I kind of have without really doing that.
And that's exactly true.
And that's why I think that being able to sort of map it out, I'd almost want to leave a little version of that on on the table while I'm going through the story.
Sure.
All the people I'm interacting with, especially if you've got, you know, sort of a history of aggression, you know, as a response. Who are all the people that you're making it worse, or better?
Yeah.
What's your reaction to all those things?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, you know, what this does too is kind of interesting is it starts to get into this idea of how do I make this happen really? How do I illustrate this? Yeah, there's options I can choose in you know, dialogue threads that will make more sense, but what are my play rules going to be associated with this? And because I see him being in conflict with society so much, I made the decision right away that he was never going to pay off his bounty. Ever. Never.
Just as a
It's
point
the,
of...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's almost a point of pride at this point,
Well,
right?
yeah.
I mean, some sort of reckless point of pride.
Yeah.
Just fine, whatever you want.
Yeah.
Make it bigger.
I hesitate to call it a principle, but it kind of is.
On principle. I'm not paying
Yes.
it. Cause
Yes. And
Because
so,
watch me.
two can play at that game.
Yeah.
It's all out of spite.
Mm-hmm. So really, I guess what this segment is turning into is kind of a deep dive into this character idea. But what I'm trying to do is illustrate what I think is a structure that could help people take what they might be creating by accident and map it out in a way that's a bit more structured and gives you a framework for diving even deeper. Because I think when we want to play these characters in Skyrim, we come up with these play rules in our head of things that we're going to do and not going to do and all this stuff.
Right.
But clearly, this is a guy who's going to spend a fair amount of time in jail. You know,
very likely.
For one reason or another. And I know, having played him, he's been in Whiterun and he's been in Solitude so far. Those are the only two cities he's been in. But in both of those cities, the guards always say, "Hey, I know you."
No.
And he keeps walking. He keeps walking. Right? And
Nope.
actually, Whiterun, I cannot go back to right now because I did get in a fight and I did get thrown in jail and I escaped from jail, which was awesome. Which was awesome. Yeah, I mean, the way I kind of play this out is he will not pay off his bounties. And he also would hesitate as a point of pride to serve his time. You know, you can just go lay down in a cot.
Yeah, but it's just like paying your bounty. It's forget that.
Right. So here's an interesting experience, right? I said
like a little game.
Yeah.
I mean, within the game.
It is, right? So one of the things I said I was going to do is I was going to make Skyrim a playground for a thief. And one of the mods I introduced, we talked about it last week, is Skyrim sewers, right?
Oh, yeah.
Every city has a sewer under it.
Yep.
And so he comes from Valtheim Towers. He raids another bandit camp, steals the gear he needs, including a loot. And he comes into Whiterun, and he pays for his bed the first night by playing at the Bannered Mare. He makes enough money to have a place to sleep and a quick meal. But then he gets up in the middle of the night, and the first thing he does is he goes diving down into the sewer system to start figuring out what's going on under there, because he's a criminal. He knows where to find the other criminals.
And it's like home.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that was actually the other mod I was going to mention
in
earlier.
Solitude, right?
I do have that installed. It is very cool so far.
Yes.
Ienarath actually went into the sewers. I did it more on a player side because I was curious about the mod as much as anything at that point. So I did play it off a little bit, and I waited until there weren't a bunch of people around the manhole cover. So
that makes sense.
No one was looking because it would be really odd otherwise. So she went down in, and their skeevers are kind of all over the place. And of course, couldn't see a damn thing. Don't have a torch.
So. Lighting a torch in a sewer, not always a good idea either.
Ooh, I never thought about that.
But I did find one, so I actually did light it, and nothing happened. So, but
there's no methane mod.
No must be pretty well vented.
It must be.
Every manhole cover in town shot 50 feet into the air.
He just didn't notice.
So I did wander around a little bit, and I actually came to a stairwell that went up into the Bard's College. And right there was a loot, so I grabbed the loot just because it seemed like something I could sell. Because at this point I'm pretty low level, I needed the coin. So, and at just that time my torch went out, and it went pitch black. So I shimmied up the ladder and ended up in the Bard's College. So
cool.
I was able to take some time there and sit down and read a couple of their books. And
and then all of a sudden his pursuit of liberal arts took off.
Well, I do think I found a bard for my future guild or whatever you want to call it, though.
Yeah,
because fairly handsome man and nice voice. So I think we can seduce him into
note to self.
Self. That's exactly right.
I like it.
So, but yeah, it's a
terrific mod.
It is fun. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, I did the same thing. I sort of played it as, Robbard, knows that he needs to find a way to make his own way. He wants to build his own empire. He doesn't want to be part of someone else's. So, went down to the sewer, fully explored that, and then later on in the play session, got into some trouble and got thrown in jail. And as soon as I was in jail, I'm like, okay, I've got one lockpick. And I went to the door, and I looked around, and there were no guards patrolling. So I went over to a grate in the floor, and I moved that. There was a body of a guy already in the cell who had died.
Oh, okay.
And it looked like he had been using a butter knife to try to wedge open this grate. And so I went over there and used the lockpick and got it open, jumped down into the sewer, of which I was already intimately familiar, right?
Perfect.
And I knew exactly the path. I made my way around to a little area where I could climb up on the wall, and I could actually reach through the grates into the locker where they had stashed all my gear.
That's very handy.
So I went up in there, and I tried to pick the lock, and I broke my lockpick, and I had the one, right?
Right.
So I thought, okay, last time I was down here, there was a beggar guy on the other side of this sewer under the Plains District. So I snuck over there, and I found him, and I'm like, dude, you got anything to sell? And he's got like 50 lockpicks. Bam! So I scrounged as much garbage as I could find down there and made enough money to buy 3 lockpicks. And I went back, picked the lock, got all my gear back, and then there was another chest that was just within my reach as well that said evidence chest. And I opened that up, and it had everything in it that I had stolen previously. Stole it all back, and then headed out. And I'm like, okay, now I got to get out of town. So
you just stole your stolen stuff.
I found the path. Where the water washes out of the city, and the grate opens, and so I was able to come out underneath the drawbridge. There's a drawbridge in Whiterun, and where that water empties out.
Oh yeah.
I came out underneath that, and I knew that my horse was up by the front gate, so I snuck down to the end of that alleyway there, and I whistled for him, and he came running around, and then I jumped on his back and beat it out of there as fast as I could, right?
That's hilarious.
And it was awesome.
How do you whistle for your horse?
You got to have the mod.
Yep. In fact, it's worth mentioning, I'm using immersive horses now.
You're not using convenient?
I've stopped using convenient horses.
What's the difference between immersive horses and convenient horses? Okay.
2 different mods that function slightly differently. I like the simplicity of immersive.
So.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Not to be confused with inversed horses, which is where you ride upside down.
I've got ballet horses right now that keep thinking that they can do parkour and stuff. So,
I mean, it turned out really good, right? But that was the idea
right.
of this play
yeah,
role, right?
Yeah.
So now he's an escapee from Whiterun, and
Well, it's
I
a
am
perfect use. It's a perfect use of the mods for that character.
yeah, yep.
Absolutely.
So I've got a bounty. At this point, I've got a bounty in Whiterun and a bounty in Morthal, and I do have a bounty in Solitude now as well. But
You're
I'm
not
kind
going to
of
have anywhere to go pretty soon.
yeah.
You're
I'm kind
gonna
of
have
hiding
dudes
out
all
there.
over the place following you.
Yeah. There's one more thing.
An auspicious band of
you know
brothers. They're going to converge, and it's going to explode.
I know.
You fight you. Leave me.
God. So far, yeah, I've fought 3 thugs and a bounty hunter, and killed them all. So Robbard's making it work, but it's going to get kind of ugly pretty soon.
I think Robbard's going to find a way to turn this to his advantage at the end. All these people are going to start figuring out that they don't have a problem with him.
Yeah.
They've got a problem with the societies that's, that he's pushed off for his entire life. And we'll maybe find out that at the end that poor Robbard was, really in charge this whole time and everyone was his puppet.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see how this works out.
That's pretty grand thinking, but
Well,
you never know.
The Thieves Guild quest line, I mean, yeah, they're a bunch of thieves and they live in the sewer and all that stuff, but the way that quest works and the way that it ends, I mean, you're expected to be a leader,
Right.
And so regardless of who it is you're leading, the question is Robbard capable of being a leader, or is he strictly a loner? And I'm just kind of reserving judgment on that. I'm not going to say that maybe he's not capable of being the guild master.
Right.
I don't know. I'm certainly not going to decide now because I don't feel like I know him well enough.
Right.
But I think these rings will kind of help me determine what are the right circumstances in which Robbard could rise to the top. Because right now he's been at the bottom, but he's continually put himself there.
Right.
So then what happens?
What's going to change along the way to
Yes.
to change that inner ring?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or maybe there's something about the qualities in that inner ring where when he's in this certain environment with a certain set of
finally
people,
come through.
it is an advantage rather than a disadvantage.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I don't know.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's really what we're talking about here, these rings of conflict. It's really nothing more than a model to help you kind of figure out how to document the way a character might react.
Well, really
in
how
certain
to
situations.
how to gather and group all the ideas that are floating
Yeah.
around, because like you say, everyone has all these concepts and things and reasons and
Right.
but they're kind of wild and loose, and pretty soon before you know it, you're just going on a quest to go on a quest
Exactly.
instead of corralling all of that stuff and trying to make some sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So if we were to think about your current character, if we look at, I mean, how would you approach this? Would you approach this from the outside in, or do you think from the center out? I mean, I can see both.
Yeah, I can too, because there's
approaches.
a lot of exterior. There's a lot of things that happened on the outside that kind of made her who she is.
Right.
But there's also those bits on the inside that flourished.
Yeah.
Because of it, or maybe were brought to the surface. So I'm not sure. I think on a personal conflict, kind of that dichotomy that you were talking about earlier, just off the top of my head, I'd say it's more kind of a, she's got this quest for power to settle the world because her world has never been settled. But really all she wants to be is acknowledged. So that could be kind of her in her core.
Right.
And then, the interpersonal would, of course, be her father. She would never have known her mother for a few years. And then her aunt and uncle are kind of the immediate ones that come to mind. And then on a lesser note, but just as important because they did help kind of give her a foundation, would be the bandits and then the necromancers.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's kind of interesting when you think about it. Think about her background. What is it that she thinks she wants? She
Right.
thinks that she wants control.
Right.
She thinks that she wants power, but what she really wants is to be acknowledged and maybe security.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
Right,
she
right.
wants to be safe.
Right. And and I guess at this point, each of those interpersonal groups and
Mm-hmm.
individuals cultivated a different aspect of her person and how she thought she, or what she thinks she's going
Mm-hmm. Right.
for. So you got the bandits that kind of cultivated that. I don't know, maybe the more of the worldly view,
Mm-hmm.
or that more selfish aspect.
Yeah.
And then the necromancers on the just the general abilities and power. And she sees probably her aunt as being more of a hindrance because she refused to continue teaching her something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like there's an inner war going on inside her. On the one hand,
Right.
she wants to feel safe and secure, but on the other hand, she also has this sort of mad desire to really kind of constantly pursue knowledge. And so she can be in a secure situation with the bandits, for example.
Right.
Right.
She knows there's safety in numbers, but she's willing to take the risk if she has to. This need to acquire knowledge and to learn and
Right.
stuff is strong enough
Yeah.
that she's willing to take the risk and endanger her security in order to make a move for more
For
and
an
greater
improvement,
knowledge.
right. Yeah.
You know, so I love this idea that you have this person who has all this powerful potential, but
Right.
but maybe a little bit hesitant to leave, you know, because it could be dangerous, but bam, is taking the leap because that compulsion to go get the knowledge and to
Right.
learn is so powerful that
It's almost
know.
like coming to a point where it just like the light bulb goes off and
Yeah.
you realize that
Right.
where you're at is not going to further you anymore.
Yep.
So you take that next step forward because
Mhm.
you're just, this is old now.
Yep.
There's nothing more here I can use.
I love this. I love like talking about this model and seeing how it applies.
When you're talking about is it
Mm-hmm.
inside out or outside in, every time you add a little bit to it, I feel like you've got the outside and everything is getting more and more concentrated into your character the closer
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
in that you
Sure,
get.
sure.
Stu, I think of yours moving more in completely the opposite direction. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you've sort of thrown this rock of a person into a pond and it's rippling out and affecting everything else.
Yeah,
It's very, very different character
Good
approach.
analogy, yeah.
that is. I like that idea. Robbard is kind of like that. I think of him as kind of this. He's like this rock thrown into the pond, and he's messing things up. He's making waves.
Yeah.
And you know.
And he
that-
doesn't see the result of the
Right.
last
Yeah.
wave, right?
Exactly.
Whereas if you want to keep the water and the ripples, Ienarath could be more of like the fish that's way underneath the water, and you see the ripples, but you're not sure what's causing it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
maybe
Until you
so.
get to the center and you start looking down.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, this is interesting discussion. I love tools like this. I'm always looking for something that's going to help, and that the whole idea of trying to figure out a character's the dichotomies or the complications of a character, the
Right.
things that make them interesting is always hard. This is a model that might help. It might help you, dear listeners, if you think, if you're working on a character type right now. Think of it this way and see what you come up with. Document a few things. It certainly can be as easy as a bulleted list, and that's kind of what we're doing.
And send it to us if you want to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love to read it.
Again, yeah, we could do quite a character critique. Could
Oh, we
not?
totally could. That would be
Yeah,
fantastic.
I mean, one of the things that we're doing.
We'd need a couch.
Well, yeah, we would, wouldn't we?
Have somebody come in, tell us about your character.
Yes. Tell us about your background.
I'll volunteer.
Childhood.
I'll do it. I'll take the couch.
All right.
You're a true couch warrior.
There we go.
Yes,
But
the warrior couch. But yeah, I mean, one of the things that we're doing
Sparta.
here is we're looking at really kind of trying to focus on character profiles now. So one of the things that we're doing is upgrading our gallery. You've probably seen that we've got gallery shots in there of a number of different characters with some kind of bullet items there. that are kind of imprinted right on the image, giving us a general idea of who this person is. We're trying to take that to the next level. If you go to the gallery and look at Robbard's picture there, you can click on it, and it'll take you to a sample post that has more detailed information on Robbard, his background, and some of these circles of conflict as they apply to him. We're going to be expanding that, and we're going to be trying to put together some material with more information on these characters going forward. And these will be characters that we're playing in game and some that we're not, maybe past characters as well. But the idea is we can use it as sort of a living, breathing character profile gallery where you can go to generate some ideas of your own, and maybe you take one of these and spin off into a whole new direction, but it's a starting point. So look for more information on that coming up. So next, we're going to have Crusader Mail. Stick around. Welcome back, everybody. It is Crusader Mail time. What we got, Joe?
All right. Thanks, Stu. And just as a quick note to reference my earlier comment that coming up, and we have two important dates.
Okay.
July 31st and August 21st.
Okay.
Those are the days that are going to be important to the Airness Arcana submissions that we've been getting through CharacterCrusade.com.
Okay.
So we are going to compile our Airness Arcana related questions and present them and spend a significant amount of time in an episode on the 21st of August.
Okay.
In order to do that, however, we do have to make a cutoff date, and that is July 31st.
Okay, so you got to get your questions in by July 31st or they don't make the cut?
Correct.
Okay.
So we've got a decent list so far, but
Okay.
If you're thinking about it, if you had a question or a comment or
Do it now.
anything like that, get it in before the 31st of July so that
It's
it'll
coming
be,
very soon.
It'll time flies, doesn't it? So we'll compile all those, and we'll spend some time coming up on August 21st to go over those.
Well, that's
And
wonderful.
now, that's not to say that we're going to totally discontinue the Airness Arcana submission.
Right.
It just means that we're not going to get to it probably after this anytime
For a while,
soon.
yeah.
Well,
A big reason I think
Yeah.
is that this podcast really isn't about the Couch Warrior Airness Arcana series, and we don't want it to become that. So
Right.
we're happy to address the questions, Stuart specifically in most cases because it's kind of his baby, if you will. But so we just want to address those, and then we're going to just kind of move on with more of our role play type of content that we want the podcast to be about.
And I
There's a
appreciate
lot more
that.
characters to pick
Yeah.
up.
I mean, I think that the cutoff date is good. I'm probably going to need at least that much time to kind of prepare and go back and do my homework on some of these things.
There's a lot to go through.
Yeah.
So this is going to sound web dorky. For people who are not on the mailing list, if you want a reminder of those end dates, sign up for the mailing list. We can get a
Yeah,
message out to
that's
you
true.
for the last, maybe the last week ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
Anything like that. Again, we want to make sure that we can reach out and ask things at the right time or give people some information on deadlines or things that are coming up. This is a perfect reason for that.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that is a good point. Get on the mailing list, and we'll use that to send out some reminders and alerts as we near the cutoff date.
Yep.
Like Joe said, this podcast really isn't about Airness Arcana specifically, but we realize that series is probably going to continue to be a well of ideas.
Oh, for sure.
So
it's going to come
yeah.
up. And, I mean, it's already come up on multiple occasions. There's a lot of really good content from that series to draw from.
Yes.
So
Talk about it occasionally in the podcast.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We're gonna continue to do that. Because
Okay.
why not?
Wonderful.
But we're not going to focus on that series in particular. So
Yeah. Well, I'm really looking forward to the discussion.
yeah, there's been some really good questions and some comments and all that good stuff, and we'll wrap it all up in a nice big bundle and address that.
And lob it at you.
I'll address
Ooh.
that at the end of
Yeah.
August.
And we'll
So
land with a resounding thud. So what was the cutoff date again, Joe?
So the cutoff date for submissions to be included is July 31st, 2015.
Okay, July 31st. And then the date that we will...
The date we will address those on air is August 21st.
Okay, excellent. I love it.
So,
okay.
All right, moving on. I just have the one question that I think I want to address because it kind of seems to be fitting of our discussion today. And that is from Tom R. from New Jersey.
Okay.
So Tom writes, excuse me, I'm playing a tribal orcish hunter. He begins as a bit of a savage, stealing what he wants and killing as he sees necessary. However, my plan is to have him leave the orc stronghold to find himself in a spiritual format. Yet, instead, he meets someone who slowly teaches him the finer forms of living, causing an evolution of sorts for the character and the skills as he goes from hunter, thief, to multifaceted knight, if you will. I'm not quite sure how to flesh this out, though. So if you could suggest some ideas, I'd be grateful.
Okay. This is an interesting question. I feel like a lot of how you might do this would hinge on who this person is that, you know, kind of takes this orc under his or her wing and teaches him all these things.
Right. I agree. That would be a good starting point. Kind of flesh out that NPC. And why does that NPC, what's the attraction? Why do they get together?
Yeah.
Why do they stay together? Is it another orc? Is it another race?
Oh, yeah. The idea of it being another orc has a certain amount of appeal, right? Because it seems like an orc who's set in his savage ways might be more inclined to listen to another orc who's found a different way to live, saying, "Hey, man, what the heck are you doing?"
Well, I mean, I believe a good case in point would be the librarian in the Mage's College.
Oh yeah, great. Yeah, that would be perfect.
There's an orc who found a different way.
Yeah. How about the gourmet?
The gourmet.
That would be interesting. Oh yeah.
So, I mean, you could choose those NPCs as, I mean, specifically in your role play, or you can use that kind of a concept for your own type of orc NPC. I mean, I believe there's you know, if there's mods out there for orc NPCs, I'm sure there are.
Oh, of course.
Acquire one of your own as a follower, or if you're going to use like amazing follower tweaks or something, you can bring them in on like that. And
yeah, you know, there's probably 3 or 4 different orcs who could be good candidates just in the vanilla game that for this suggestion. I love the idea of I believe the orc librarian at the Mage College, his name is Urag.
Yes, that sounds right.
He's a great candidate. I think what you need to do is with that idea, you'd have to engineer some reason for kind of a savage, thieving inclined orc to end up at the Mage College.
Right.
But if you could come up with that premise, Urag, who gives all kinds of great quests to go out and retrieve books, which is the ideal scenario for a thief.
Right.
Maybe he puts out a message to say, I'm looking for someone who's particularly skilled to do me these jobs I have. And then we end up in a situation, right, where there's some kind of a relationship that builds over time. Right?
Someone who's a professional in acquisitions.
Yes. I'm looking for someone to work in our acquisitions department. I love this idea. That would actually work pretty well, I think.
Which means, then you've got and you can send out the letter, or how else could you? Because you'd have to gain entrance into the Mage's College, so you'd have to work kind of through that little bit. So if you played it out as he sent out the kind of this notice, canvass the area. That would give you a reason.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you first approach the Mage College, you have to go through that little test.
That little spell deal.
A little spell test. But what you do in this scenario is, from a role-playing sense, you rather than playing it as a test, you play it as a password.
Oh.
You know, and you're basically saying, not only am I looking for someone who's skilled in acquisitions, but someone who's smart enough to figure out how to make this happen, even though it's maybe not their bailiwick. That's a person who has the resources, the mental resources to be able to do what it is I need him to do. So it's kind of a password and kind of a test engineered by Urag to make sure the person that he's going to be working with has a certain capacity.
Yeah, because if they're not a spellcaster and they can figure out even just a basic spell, they actually obviously have the ingenuity and the intellect to do what he needs them to do.
Or you go a little bit the other way, right? And you say Urag is obtaining these books on his own, for his own reasons. And what he wants is someone who's not only skilled in acquisitions, but can put up a front and kind of smuggle themselves into the college in a way, and then work with him on the sly without the other members of the college knowing about it because he's got some ulterior motive. That would be something you could do too.
Oh, sure. And both of them would be more inclined to trust another orc.
Yeah. Oh God, that would be so cool. Then you make Urag, I think it's Urag Groshub or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
You make him kind of like this guy who's got a lot more going on than appears on the surface.
Oh yeah, and he is a cantankerous.
He is, and I can see him. He puts his arm around this orc who comes in and says, "My boy, we are going to pull off some major cons here." But if you're going to pull this off, first you got to do me some missions, and while you're doing that, I'm going to teach you how to play the game. You got to learn how to play the game. Yep, you got to learn how to play the game so that you can get in the places we need you to get into, right? Mm-hmm. And he's got some larger end game because there's no reason at all after doing so many of these missions for him and recovering a lot of books that you couldn't use amazing follower tweaks, make him into a follower, and then go on adventures other places with him instead of having it just constantly be fetch quests. Right.
And this is an earlier submission, so we don't have any info of whether Tom is running mods or not.
Okay.
But,
yeah.
Because we just kind of go off to the assumption that you probably have the capacity to do that.
Yep. If you're running mods, I would go that route, make him into a follower and go do some other stuff with him. But I think the key to this working is, at least at the start, kind of treating Urag as if he is sort of the older, wiser person, right? The mentor. Yeah. He's the one who's showing you the light. And obviously, he's a person who's going to have access to all kinds of resources.
Resources within the college from the different, because if you can present yourself as someone that Urag trusts, the other mages are going to be a lot more willing to deal with you. And it doesn't have to be spells. You don't have to go the mage route, but there's other things you can get there.
If you're willing to go the mage route, you could kind of work on that as well to say...
You could work that into the story, sure.
Urag is saying...
you need to know a few things.
There's some things going on here that we want to learn more about, and the Archmage is not telling us anything. I need you to do it. Sit down. I'm going to teach you some basic things so that you can be a passable student here.
Right.
And we're going to start working our long range con game, whatever that is.
So that builds them into that ability to to learn and become.
That's the next one. Really, I love this.
Fake your way into the upper echelon, which opens up the Thalmor embassy.
It does. Yes. Does it?
Yeah, well, you could play it that way, because if you're trying to be an infiltrator,
that's true. Oh man, yeah.
You could,
I'm watching all the gears turning.
You could put yourself up into.
My brain is smoking right now.
Fake your way into.
It was Canadian wildfires.
I'm a upper crust person.
Yeah.
And get in. You pass your invitation to the Thalmor. I mean,
right.
I don't remember all the specifics on that particular quest, but it could open that up if you wanted to use that as kind of a route.
Well, Urag, the sort of sage mentor character, is, I think, perfect. It sets up a lot of different possibilities. If you wanted to keep it as simple as a series of fetch quests where Urag is the venerable guy who has some coin and he wants to pay to get this stuff found, you can keep it simple. Right. Or you can go with something more elaborate and say that...
with a much larger long-term goal.
Urag has got a long-range mission, and his mission is to get a student of his or a confederate of his into a position of power in the mage college, and he's kind of like saying, boy, when I'm done with you, you're going to be archmage. And you're kind of saying, whatever. And then Urag makes it happen, right?
Right.
You and me, we're going to go all the way, man. We're going to, you know.
Because while you're out fetching books for him, he's pulling strings on the inside for you.
Yeah. Absolutely. And maybe he could have 20 different goals,
yours.
Right?
Oh, sure.
Oh, awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. All the stuff, you think about all the stuff going on underground, you know, under the college in the Midden.
Oh,
There's all kinds of strange things down there. Through that quest line, you know, you can also give Urag, eventually, you can give Urag an Elder Scroll. I mean, maybe his end game is to get his hands on an Elder Scroll.
I've done that ever.
Oh, yeah. If you go through the whole dragon quest line, right?
Okay.
During that quest line, you acquire an Elder Scroll. After that quest line is
you're
over,
right. It's been so long
you're
since I've
sitting
done
around
that.
with an Elder Scroll in your inventory like, what the heck do I do this? Urag will buy them from you.
Shed it because they weigh a ton.
Yeah, he'll buy them from you.
They do.
Maybe that's his
know.
end game. Maybe he's
wants
saying,
the
you know
Elder
what,
Scrolls.
I want Elder Scrolls, and you have an opportunity to give him at least 2.
It gives a whole new meaning to paperweight.
He will buy them.
Oh yeah, they're like 20 pounds a piece.
Well, I think that.
So that would be a really good start to.
Oh, for sure.
To taking on a mentor and
I love it.
Really refining an otherwise gruff character.
Yeah. There are some other orc characters in the game that have potential, but probably none that have access to as many resources. as Urag
and
does,
especially if you want to try to bring them into a more finer quality.
Yeah.
That would probably be the number one that I could think of. That's not an NPC or a modded NPC.
Right.
So there's something really fun just about the fact that, you know, here we are talking about all the options, and in the last 10 minutes, watching the two of you, your eyes just go wide, and you're like, oh, I got to go do that, and oh, this is going to fit into my character. You know, this is stuff that I'm just starting with. Tons of other people are starting to build this in. You don't have to start with an entire story. You just start with a little tiny spark.
Sure.
And in a conversation like this, or thinking about it on your own, or sketching it out, whatever, all of a sudden you've got this incredible new thing that you're going to go after.
And
you can amaze yourself a little bit.
And honestly, to spin off of that, and I think it's really easy for people to do, maybe not everyone, but I mean, if you're playing this game, you know someone who's also playing it, most likely. And really what Stuart and I have done countless times is just talk on the phone and what get together and just start spinning ideas off of each other, and it's pretty amazing the conversations you'll have
Where it goes.
Well, I hope that helps, Tom. Boy, we came up with some ideas we thought were pretty good, but you may come up with some of your own. Like I said, there's many other orc characters. There's actually a master level orc blacksmith trainer in Markarth. That would be another great candidate. Obviously, he can actually teach you things too, but he's in a position of power. Has the ear of the Jarl, and works right in the palace. So you know that's a possible option too. So
sure,
excellent. This was great, super fun.
Yeah, cool.
Thanks for the question.
Yeah,
thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you, Tom.
Well, that brings us to the end of another episode of Character Crusade podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Your support is the lifeblood of this show, so we appreciate all of that. If you'd like to support what we're doing, you can check out everything we got going on Patreon. Just go to patron.charactercrusade.com. You can also give us a review. Give us a review on iTunes. Go to itunes.charactercrusade.com. That'll take you to our iTunes page, and you can give us a review there. For a 5-star review, we will give you a shout-out on the next episode.
Yes, we will.
Yes, we will. And if you're interested in just, you know, all the different ways you can participate, obviously you can find us on SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes, charactercrusade.com, and YouTube. Thanks, and look forward to seeing you next episode.
Bye.
You have one old message.
Character Crusade is a proud member of the N4G TV and Maker Studios Partner Network. N4G TV partners have access to exclusive production assets that are second to none and maintain full creative control over their channels. That's you, and that's me, and that's these Crusaders. Partner benefits include 24/7 customer support, SEO, What's SEO? A dedicated graphics team. I love me some graphics. A catalog of more than 400,000 licensed music and sound effects and more. Learn more. Learn more at n4gtv.com and tell them Jimmy sent you.
End of messages.
Hey, thanks for coming in. We wanted to have you do a sponsor read for us. Would you mind doing that?
That'd be fine. Hang on for a minute here.
Yeah, you got to talk in the other end.
This end?
No, the other end.
Right there. Is that better?
Yeah, we can hear you real good.
This is weird.
Joe, do you have the copy?
Oh, yeah.
Here. That's just read that first paragraph. That's kind of it's a thank you message, right?
Talking right here.
Yeah, talk into the microphone.
All right. We're supported by you, the fans of Couch Warrior TV and Character Crusade. Whether contributing to our Patreon campaign or simply helping us spread the word, none of this would be possible without your support. Go to patron.charactercrusade.com to learn about the benefits of supporting the Crusade with a recurring donation and help keep the Crusade rolling.
Wow, that was great.
Is that all? Because, I'm double parked outside.
Yeah.
The guys have been keeping the engine running.
Well, I thank you for coming in and taking the time. We really appreciate it. I mean,
my pleasure. I'm going to stop by whenever I want to.
Okay, well, it's good to have a super fan in the neighborhood, so feel free.
Not always in the neighborhood. But thank you, Character Crusade guys.
Hey, don't let us keep you any longer.
I'm out of here.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.